Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John's Reporters for the 13th. And, well, sure enough, the rising steel had eventually here crossed the orange line, which is bullish from a snake standpoint. We were waiting for cyan to get in the middle. That would be a full snake, or at least some broadening of the spread would indicate that you're going to get a much more robust move, sort of like when you get these back here that happened, in August. The significant move, and you get much more of a drawdown. And here, this is sort of just like, we're here, but we're not really doing a whole lot. And that's sort of reflected in price, where we're stuck with the ABMs. 28.97 for the yellow. That becomes the upside, ceiling, so to speak. And a breakthrough of that, though, and you're clear to the 100%. Nothing's going to stop you at that point. So it's one of those where it breaks out and it just keeps going. So we'd be looking for that. And certainly all of the levels down below are in play. Contract rollover, that's why you're seeing the corrections on some of these future ones, was starting. And so even though it may affect what the ES reading is, if you're still trading like the ESU contract at the end of the week, not a big deal, because it'll have a different price. I think it's in the lower 90s compared to the up adjustment that took place for dividends and all that were added back into the overall general contract. So you can see much stronger buy setup from the NASDAQ. It completely has the orange breaking, and it has much broader on that separation. Those are the kind of things that we look for. Again, the euro staying above the upside of that range is also bullish for the S&P. I don't expect bonds to go anywhere that way, because the yield definitely has to rise with this economy heating. Though I think there was a little bit of a pause in people's thinking given the hurricane. I'm not sure how much damage or what that would do to production, because it can really impact GDP in a significant way for a quarter or so after they take place. Certainly we've seen that happen with other natural disasters. So but it looks to be weakening, so that could be another positive aspect. And oil at the top side of the range now, and so this is that kind of, we're in the Goldilocks portion now. It's sort of pressuring the upside. That would be a problem if it does. That will put some market pressure on there, and that is just the reality of the expectation that inflation is rising a bit faster than some maybe are taking account of. We've been seeing this accumulation in gold. We're just waiting for this kind of a setup where you get a significant buy-side snake. That started early, right as the market opened, and we started breaking through the different zones of the ABM until it finally breached the gold. But you can see it's steel above, cyan's right in the middle for the tongue, and that lovely orange dip going down. All good stuff there. If we go to the 5K, it was a nice day. We ended up positive extremes, beautiful DOC spread. A little bit on the weaker side with this one. This is where sometimes I'll play it with the ABMs. I don't have it turned on right now, just to make the chart a little less busy in that sense. Because you didn't get the green moving below red until a little bit later in the overall run. And then you did get a secondary short opening of the mouth like that, with that kind of crossover going, and that did lead to the much bigger decline. This buy signal, when it pops in, it is that. It's just weaker from the version, because you're looking at it shake out below negative 13.5, and as it works out, you get the orange pops right out of it. So even if you bought it, you'd be able to get out and you'd be able to get a profit in it, but it just went back and forth, and then you ended up with the cyan above, and then another reset of green below. And it wasn't until they all met right here that you get that real clarity, and that happened right at the beginning, and then you can see it just exploded when you get that kind of clarity from it. Did create a positive extreme. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter at that point was following the ABM, which was going all the way up this particular point, and once that produced the short, which was just a little bit above the ABM, then you've got pretty significant retrace. You get that one as well as the 50%, and boom, it just collapsed right to it. Hit it perfectly. And then we evened out again for another little short that took us back to the 23, and then we started to get a couple of the buys. Certainly right back in here. was also by configuration, just also at a modestly weak, but you had that dip below the red line that took place right here. So you'd expect that to be retraced. And in fact, it did on the secondary one. Just didn't get enough of a push from the orange below. So I tend to kind of like stay away from those. It certainly is tradable from a long side standpoint because you had the green above, cyan moving lower. You have definitely a higher pivot for red. So I mean, those are all good things, and it did produce a nice little pop. These are the things where it becomes flexible as far as how aggressive you want to get, because there's certainly plays within both of those as long as you respect the idea that you're looking to see that green overtake cyan pretty quickly for the fastest moves, and as soon as you see orange rising back up, you've got a little bit of a problem. What you're wanting to see is that orange come up and then pivot lower pretty quickly, sort of like this one pivoted up and then boom came down. That would have been good if it had continued a little bit further, and that's what stalled until you ended up with this overall setup. And that's where I love to look for these low pivots. And in the updated program I'm working, it's going to pop it up here. I don't know if I activated it on these. Oh yeah, you might be able to see it. It's going to produce like an L or a short right underneath. So that will give cleaner ideas as to which ones are optimal. I'll adjust it so that it's a little bit further away, or you may even bring it down outside of the Fibonacci setup so that it's like below where these numbers are and gets it a little bit cleaner range, make it easy to see. But I think that will be effective because then you'll be able to see some of the transition rolls that take place and the different opportunities, and certainly when that's adjusted to even that was the DLCon paint, but even to the program that you're seeing here, which is the GAN function paint bar, it'll be effective because it'll just make it easier to recognize that, which means also be able to create alerts for it and be pretty fast action. So I think it'll be really a nice addition to it. But as soon as I get that completed, I will send it all out and you'll be able to give it a shot and let me know what you think of it. As always, though, trade well. I'll continue to put up images on the Skype chat, and we'll talk later.